I'm sticking with mine that I picked at the start of the year. Old Nostradamus over there.
Yeah. Well, who's yours then?
I'll go with the low-hanging fruit. If he doesn't, I'm worried for him.
There's already attracted interest from Newcastle United in the Premier League and Liverpool, and Arsenal scouts have all been looking at him.
Very good question.
I'd love to know the answer.
I think he's going to have a huge career ahead of him.
No, we didn't struggle, mate.
You compared his attributes to Declan Rice, and I think that's exactly right.
Dare I say it?
Yeah, you can see it happening.
I know.
You can see it happening.
Oh, that is special. Unbelievable. This, ladies and gentlemen, is football.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Total A-Leagues. James Dodd in the chair as ever alongside Daniel McBreen and Tommy Orr. Gents, there was a lot of football over the weekend. There's been midweek football, there's midweek football tonight, there's a few games this weekend. Should we start with our moments of the round that was, round 19 in the Isuzu UTE A-League? Do we know what he's going to go
Can
with?
I go in before him?
Yeah, go on.
Before him? I will go before you. I'm not going to do the Jets.
Yeah, fair.
You can do whatever you're going to do with them. I'm going to go with Auckland. I sat here and proclaimed that they weren't as scary as they used to be anymore, and they've suddenly gone out and won 5-0 and 3-0.
Yep.
The 3-0 demolition was against Melbourne City, and let's be honest, it could have been easily another 5-0. They have answered our calls of not being dangerous by going out and spanking teams, and all of a sudden I think they're dangerous again.
How good's Jesse Randall been?
Yeah, he's been quality. Loads of goals, loads of assists. Already got a deal moved overseas. Might be looking at that and going, I could have a better deal. But look, he's been fantastic. A real breakout season, and they look dangerous again.
And you've got to say, Sam Cosgrove started on the bench of this game, and you just feel like when he comes in, and which I think inevitably he will back into the starting lineup, that will take them to another level again. So they are finding form at a very good time of the season.
Well, some would even argue that maybe they're being forced to play a different way without Sam Cosgrove, and maybe that's reaping the rewards for them. So Thomas Sorensen called them the office Jets now on the weekend after that the goalless draw against Mariners. Are they still your moment of the week? How can you possibly justify this?
It can't be. I had to change, and it's going to be the Mariners for me this week, putting an end to the Jets.
So it's still Jets related.
It has to be Jets related. Everything's Jets related. But Mariners. I thought obviously the Jets in the first half absolutely peppered their goal. Had a goal ruled out for offside, a little bit controversially. I do think the right call was made there, but I think the Mariners did ride their luck. But you have to say the Mariners are so plucky. They're 6 games unbeaten now too, and they were great in this game, and finding form again at the right time of the season to potentially get into the 6 as well.
Yeah, and you look at that squad, I think most of us had them right down the bottom of the league. I think Warren Moon and his staff have done a great job, and you can hear the way that Redders and James Donachie are talking now, and you can hear about this, we're all together and there's a good group of guys, and they're starting to ride this little bit of wave with the new signings coming in. Laval has been good. He had a great chance to try and win the game near the end. Big game for them.
And you've got to say as well, great to see Hayne Eames back in the starting lineup after all his issues. I think that was only his 3rd appearance of the season, so great to see him back involved. And, when he finds his feet, I think that is the kind of player that can take them to another level again, for sure.
Yeah, Warren Moon also said, didn't he, recently, that the thing that they were missing was just competition for places, and they addressed that in the mid-season transfer window. It's also very interesting, if you look at the Mariners, everybody thought that when the whole change of ownership transpired, what was that? It's kind of maybe 2 months ago now, that they might be in trouble. They're unbeaten since that happened.
Yeah.
So they've clearly galvanised it and used it as a tool within the club to kind of push themselves on and get the group a bit tighter. And
when you talk about the signings they made in January, you just talk about all these players who came back from overseas. A few of us probably looked at them and went, Laval, Ali Ogla, they're coming back from the Championship or the NPL space, where they went to there, and all of a sudden you're going, they've been great, astute signings. They're performing well, and that depth of squad as well makes a big difference.
And also coming in fully fit. They've played a lot of football in recent times. It's not to say, like you've seen in other clubs, I think Melbourne City, for example, players have come in and they haven't played for a long time, and it takes them a little bit of time to kind of get up to speed, whereas from the first minute they arrived, they were ready to play, and their impact was immediate, as you both just said.
My moment of the round, Dylan Chicluna, his assist against MacArthur in the latest round of action. If they did a Pushkas Award for assists, which they might do, I don't know. Never know with FIFA these days. But this is outrageous for a player who's also operating in that engine room. You are so, most people assume that he's kind of a bit of a destroyer, and he's someone that's more from a defensive perspective for the Wanderers. I mean, Dylan Chicluna has been absolutely outstanding since he came back and just got minutes under his belt, most importantly, after his ACL injury. I mean, to do something like that, put it on a plate, although it's a good finish from Brandon Borello, he's done all the hard work there, showcased the running power, the technical ability with the skill, the roulette at the start. That's outstanding from Dylan Scicluna.
And coming up against, Luke Bratton, Anthony Caceres, a very, very experienced and quality midfield as well. And I think that's what the wonder is this game on the weekend was the midfield. They just completely overran MacArthur and Steve Ugarkovic as well. He got his first goal and was also influential in this game. So, no, brilliant from Scicluna, and I'm sure we'll dive more into that after.
We will get into Dylan Scicluna and the Wanderers, that epic win over MacArthur at the weekend. We'll come on to them in a bit. But Melbourne City is where we're going to start today's show because they have been Jekyll and Hyde this season, gents. This is last night. We're recording on Wednesday. This was last night against Buriram. Very, very, very late they left it. It was a great goal to open the scoring for Buriram. But I looked at the stats around Melbourne City. So they got a 1-1 draw in this game. They're alive going into the second leg of their round of 16 tie against Buriram next week in Thailand. They've scored 10 goals in the ACL Elite this season. They've scored 6 of those after the 80th minute.
Yep.
And I think even more so, 4 of those have come in 90 plus.
Yep.
They don't seem to be struggling. This game, they didn't create too many chances, Macca, but they're still alive. Why are we not seeing this from Melbourne City in the A-League? What can you put your finger on that says that there's a difference there? Is it a pressure thing? Is it an expectation thing? What do you see that's happening there?
Very good question. And I'm sure...
I'd love to know the answer.
Yeah, I'm sure Emilio Vidmar's asking the same thing. But this is the thing that we're talking about in Asia, is that they find a way. Like this game last night, I'm going to be honest, at times we were like, oh my goodness. Like the passing success rate at one stage for both teams was 60%. It was poor. They never got really anything in midfield, Melbourne City, at all, which I thought was a real negative in their play. They never played through midfield. They really didn't hit the heights at all. Their play came from around the outside. Big highlight for me for them is Marcus Younis.
Oh, yeah.
He is a standout player for them, and I've got big raps on him. And you always felt that when it stayed 1-0, because there was a penalty shout, which rightly was not given. You always felt when he got the ball, something could happen. He created that pass for Daniel Arzani that we saw miss, and then he created the goal. And the goal was fantastic because he had to go past the player. He was forced towards the corner flag, and the ball that was put in was on a plate. It was a great header, don't get me wrong, but he was at the fulcrum of everything going forward. When they looked dangerous, down that right-hand side was all him. Andreas Kuhn, where we know his quality, he just can't seem to find those heights. He started off the season all right with three assists early on, injury, and he just can't seem to find that little bit of rhythm so we can see what he had last year. But if he finds that, maybe they can jump into the 6. If he doesn't, I'm worried for them.
So with Marcus Younis, these kind of topics always come up, right? The form that he's in, both domestically and in Asian competition. Is Tony Popovich looking at Marcus Younis? Is it hard to ignore the form? Because it's not just the way he's impacting games as a starter, but he's impacting them when he's come on as a substitute as well. I mean, the assist for Ben Mazzeo there is outstanding. And he put one on a plate, albeit for Daniel Arzani would have been offside. He put one on a plate for him there as well. He seems so dangerous and he seems so confident.
Well, I think it's not only, to get national team call-ups, it's not only how good you are at your best, but how often you are at your best. And I think it's too early to put him in that discussion. But there is no doubt that, his performances, if he was to continue in this vein over the medium term to long term, he would 100% be in that discussion because you can see his quality. He's so kind of aggressive and direct and,
powerful as well.
Very powerful for his age as well because he's still very young. But I think he has a huge future ahead of him. But I think the World Cup is a little bit too early to start discussing seriously.
So, Macca, who's better than Marcus Younis on current form in the A-League then?
Well, see, I'm sitting on the other side of the thing and saying, well, we look back earlier in the year and Al Hassan Toure got called up after a couple of good games.
A hat-trick.
Yeah.
That was it,
If Marcus Younis plays the next 6 or 7 games the way he's played, and if they keep going in Asia, so maybe 8, 9, 10 games the way he's playing, I think Popper's seriously going to be looking at him because not only is he doing it in Australia, he's doing it in the Asian competition as well, which is another level up. I think he is an outside chance of travelling when you've got a squad of 26 now going to the World Cup.
Yep.
I think he could be one that's on that plane to go.
So one final one on Marcus Younis then. He came back to the A-League in the mid-season transfer window basically to get minutes because his coach and Bromby had changed. When he went there, he was on the outer. He came back here not expecting to be anywhere near Socceroos selection. If you look at Nick D'Agostino, Mitch Duke, a few others, Ryan Teague, who have returned, Daniel Arzani, they've come back with the idea of maybe putting that pressure on themselves to get themselves into that squad for the World Cup. Do you think that's maybe what could do Marcus Yunus a favour in, is that he was probably not expecting to
He just
be
wanted to
anywhere
play
near this?
minutes.
Yeah. You can put yourself under a lot of pressure, which is maybe the case of the other players putting themselves under too much pressure. But I think I'm going to go back to the point you said about Alassane Touré getting in. That was a window where it was 2 friendly games and there was a little bit of an experimental thing for Popper. I think there's a big difference between getting chosen for a camp like that to going to a World Cup, because you look at the players like Jackson Irvine, there was a lot of mainstays not in that squad. And I actually would love to see Yunus get selected. I just can't see it happening.
But I think he might be one of the ones that they could take. You know he's not going to. He might. Well, you know he's 99% not going to play.
Yeah.
But he comes in for the experience, because he's definitely, when you look at him, the way he's
Like Ocon, the same idea.
Yeah, you bring him in, and it's not looking at this World Cup, but maybe the next World Cup, to say, well, he's been there, we've put him in this area, we've seen what he's like in that space, and give him that taste to go away and go, keep doing what you're doing, and the next one's yours.
Well, Daniel Lozani at the 2018 World Cup. It also reminds me, as an England supporter, of when Theo Walcott went to the World Cup in 2006, and it was kind of out of nowhere, but you thought maybe you can bring him on because he's that X factor that people aren't familiar with. Also, if Marcus Yunus can play right wing back, then he might be in with a shout going to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So let's touch a bit more on Melbourne City and the man behind us, Aurelia Vidmar. The league form, they've struggled this year. They're I think 9th on the ladder. They're struggling to score goals. They're not creating that many chances. Is Vidi under pressure?
Well, I think we can't emphasise the importance of this second leg against Buriram, because if they get knocked out of Asia, all of a sudden the spotlight's put on them coming 8th in the A-League currently, and they're going to need to salvage a place in the finals. And Melbourne City's expectation isn't just to get into the 6, it's to win trophies. Yeah. So I think that them just scraping into the 6 and then getting knocked out of the finals also isn't a pass mark for them in the A-League. They need to get into the finals and then do something in the finals. So he is definitely under a lot of pressure, but I still think the longer he can stay in Asia and the further he can progress, I think that the A-League will kind of take a bit of a backseat.
I have a feeling the A-League might be having a little bit of a backseat now. When they look at the returns they can get if they go another 2 rounds into Asia, and the financial returns, and yes, we know Melbourne City's got unlimited funds, but if that's going to increase their bottom line and pays for the next 2 years or year of their existence, I have a feeling they've got one eye on this game next week, as this is the major point for Vidi as well, because things will change very quickly if they head out next week.
They're not playing in Isuzu A-League action, I think, until the 17th of March. So they've also got a bit of a layoff after this game in the ACL Elite in Thailand. Talking of a team that's going to be playing in Asia next season, that's Newcastle Jets. Gents, the hope of going and equalling at least the 10-game winning run came to an end. They were held to a goalless draw by the Mariners last time out. Realistically, Mark Milligan, we'll hear from him in a bit. He cut a very frustrated figure after this game. Can you understand why, Macca? Did they do enough to warrant at least, a win, albeit it would have been a scrappy one in this game? Or can he be rightly frustrated with their second half performance in particular?
Well, I think we're going to hear what he says. But, the first half they had enough chances to win. Lockie Rose came over to me at the end of the game, and he was like, he was so down on himself because Donachie cleared the one off the line, and then he said when that one there where he hits the bar, he said he looked up and all I saw was yellow shirt, so I wanted to hit it high, and he's just got it. But they're the little moments that can make a difference. They score one of them, they could easily go on to win 2 or 3-0 because heads drop from the other side, but that galvanises the Mariners as well. Come on, boys, and they stay in the game, and then as the game goes on, they get more and more frustrated. But this is what the Jets are going to come up against now. Teams are going to sit in, they're going to block those wide areas, and they're going to funnel them a little bit inside and then collapse in on them, and they've got to find a way. And look, Millsy's never been one of the coaches, and he hasn't been around long, but he's not been a coach where he's like, right, we've got to look this far ahead. Yeah. It's about the process. Yeah. This is the way we play. We go into this game, we try and get it. Do we improve game on game? And he said it from day one. So all this talk about 10 wins in a row, that's all our talk. That's the fans' talk. That's the media's talk. Inside, they'd be aware of it, but they would never have had it up on the board. We're going to break a record here. It's this week we get it done again.
And drawing an F3 derby with the Mariners, it goes to show how far they've come, that we're talking about them negatively and why they aren't doing what they were doing before. But that's kind of the benchmark they've set for themselves. I think they've kind of been a victim of their own success in terms of other people's assessing them. So, I think that if they continue the way they're going, they're still 9 games unbeaten. If they play that game again and had those chances, they would have won that game. I think, with the chances. Lockie Rose did nothing wrong in those 2 examples, and any other day he would have had at least one of the goals. So I think they're on the right trajectory. I'm sure it won't dent their confidence, and Only 2 points clear at the top of the table now, though, so that's kind of brought them back to the pack, which makes it interesting.
Dangerous Auckland right behind.
That's
Dangerous
right.
Auckland. Well, I promise you we'd hear from the man behind us, Mark Milligan. Let's have a listen to what the Newcastle Jets head coach had to say when he spoke to Robbie Thompson.
Yeah, it was never about the winning streak, mate. It was about becoming a better team continuously. And first half, look, we created enough chances to get something out of it, and we did get something out of it. But that's another good learning for us, because when you get those opportunities against a team that wants to sit in against you, you need to take those opportunities. You then take away the opportunity for them to do what they did in the second half.
Second week in a row where you've struggled perhaps to finish a game off like you have in recent weeks. Is that a concern for you?
No, we didn't struggle, mate. We didn't create as many opportunities, and they did it well. They dropped in, they were very disciplined, and it's like I said, it's an area and something we need to get used to now as a team moving forward, and of course we can get better at it.
A couple of mates in there for Robbie Thompson from Millsy there. So they're now 2 points clear, right? The gap has tightened because of Auckland have turned their form around. What's the difference like for this Jets side of being the hunters and the pressure that comes with being the hunted at the top of the league? But also, is there an argument to say that maybe the little setback of albeit a draw against an informed Mariners side is potentially something that might help that team, because it might just bring them down a little peg or two if they were maybe getting a little bit carried away with how successful they had been?
Yeah, I didn't see any complacency in their performance, though. Like, that you might have lacked a little bit of sharpness in the front third that we've seen in some of their performances, but I don't think this was a team that was complacent or just expected the job to kind of happen and for them to get 3 points without putting in the effort. I think Millsy's messaging has been, every single interview he does, he already kind of knows what he's going to answer regardless of the question. That's how kind of relentless he is with that team, and saying, no, I don't care about the score, I don't care about the situation, this is what we do, and we're just going to become better at it. And I think that's what they're showing as well. But, there is going to come a time where they will lose a game, and how they deal with that, it is a young squad. There are question marks around that, of course there are, but at the same time, I would much rather be in their position than any other position in the league.
There's a reason we've all been talking about this run, is because it's record. 10 wins in a row. It's been done once in the A-League era. And so the expectation is like, wow, this is amazing what they're doing. So to have a little falter, it's not like the end of the world.
Yeah,
They're on a great run. They're still top of the league. Yes, their expectations have been lifted, because now you've got more fans turning up, and people are, oh, here we go. And now they're being chased. But that's part of the game.
It will sting, though, won't it, for Millsy? Because, coaches take things like this very serious for their own CV. They want Coach of the Month awards. They want Manager of the Season awards. A record like this would have been an amazing
I think there's two things he cares about
for both him and the team.
I disagree, because I think the two things he'll care about come the end of the season are trophies. He's won the Australia Cup, He has a chance to win the Premiership, and I'm sure he wants to win the Grand Final. That's the only three he'll care about. And to be honest, if he wins 2 out of those 3, everything else is irrelevant.
Well, don't blame me for being greedy. I would want that one. If you get a league record, hey, listen. So the Jets this weekend, they come up against a Western Sydney Wanderers side that looked in fine form against Macarthur last time out. A 4-0 win for the Wanderers. Now, we spoke about the Wanderers, I think, last week, and how after the loss to the Mariners, we're like, what's going on with the Wanderers? Did they make the wrong appointment with Gary Van Egmond? Did it look as though they gave up with an appointment for an interim coach when they could have gone and got somewhere else? If you look at the numbers for the Wanderers, gents, they've been in great positions since Gary Van Egmond took charge. They didn't play great against Perth, but when Ryan Fraser came on, he completely changed the game. They won. They took the lead against Sydney FC in the derby. They took the lead twice. They were 2-0 up against Wellington. They twice took the lead against the Mariners. So have they been as bad as maybe the results suggest? And is actually now what you're starting to see is maybe the ideas that Gary Van Egmond and his coaching staff have been implementing are now coming to the fore, and they've actually maybe turned a bit of a corner?
I think when they've been good in the last 6 weeks, they've been very good, but they haven't been able to string that together for 90 minutes. And in the moments of the game where you are going to have to defend, they haven't done that well, and they've almost conceded probably far too easily, essentially. Yeah. But in this game, the difference was 3-0 at half-time. The game's already done. I think in the second half, Macarthur did have a little bit of a surge, but the game didn't have... If it was only 2-0, if Macarthur didn't do that costly mistake on the stroke at half-time and it was 2-0, I think it might have been different, because the momentum did definitely shift in the second half. They went back into their shell, and I think this is still a little bit of an issue that they're going to have to address going forward, is when they're in good positions and winning positions, is to continue to do what got them into that position and not go back into their shell and invite pressure, because they've shown time and time again, when they do that, they can't defend well enough to keep the other team out. essentially.
And on that point as well, and not taking anything away from their goals, but they were handed 2 goals. And it was a world-class assist from Dylan Scicluna, who went on a Maisie. But when you look at the stats, in the end, McCarthy ended up having 3 times as many shots.
Yeah.
And the man of the match, according to the FOTMob ratings and all that, was Lawrence Thomas.
Yep.
So that shows that, yeah, okay, it was a great performance and they stepped up and they were good, but it wasn't 90 minutes, you know, and I'm with you. If it wasn't that 3-0 at half-time, and Mile Sturjovski also said that he made a mistake, you know, with his a rash change and changed things up, that 90 minutes, I still think we need to see that from them, where they actually just step on the throat and go, we're dominating from go to woe, we're the team that's in control. And it wasn't there again. There was signs that they can be, and they're still only, I think, 5 points out of the finals. So if they can find 70, 80 minutes where they are the controlling team, and I think they're a little bit more ruthless now. I think Ryan Fraser's added a little bit more to that. And dare I say it?
Yeah, you can see it happening.
I know.
You can see it happening. And I also think that the midfield combination of Ugarkovic, Thurgate and Scicluna, there's a good balance there at the moment. I think that, you know, there's not really a natural number 10, but just having Scicluna behind the other two and the other two kind of getting forward. We saw Ugarkovic not only score on the weekend, probably scored a second one, missed a sitter really. But no, it just looks like it's functioning really well at the moment. I think you have to give Gary Van Egmond some credit for that as well.
So Ryan Fraser, statistically, has been outstanding. He's got 4 goals and 1 assist in 5 starts. He's only played 6 games since he joined in the mid-season window. We know how good Ryan Fraser is, and we know what an impact he's had on this side. But Dylan Scicluna is someone, you know, mentioned at the top of the show. You just touched on him there. This is a player who was showing some real qualities in that midfield before he did his ACL.
Yep.
And then it's taken him a very long time to get back into fitness and feel confident in his body and actually be given a chance to showcase what he can do. Are we seeing now, Macca, the calibre of this player, but also just how long it really does take sometimes to actually feel confident and get those minutes and show what he can really do?
Well, last year, before he got injured, I think we were starting to see the quality, and he was rated, you know, when you speak to people who had been working with him, they were like, watch this boy, he's a good player. And then he got that horrible knee injury, and we all felt, oh, that's a real shame, because he was starting to light up last year. He's come back. It's taken a little bit now. He didn't get into the team straight away, but then he's come in. I think now the match minutes we're starting to see from him, we're starting to see him get back to where he was last year. And, yeah, he is a quality player, and I think he's going to have a huge career ahead of him, because not only does he break down the play and everything, but he's got such a keen eye for a pass, when to release, short and long passing as well. And we saw on the weekend that he can actually dribble when he wants to as well.
Yeah. I agree. I think his ceiling is so high because there aren't many midfielders with his attributes. He's very rounded. But what really impresses me about him is when he's played a ball, sometimes in that number 6 area, you get players who get the ball and they just play it back to the centre-back, or they play it very safe and they're not aware. He's very aware of his surroundings. He'll let the ball run across his body, away from the defender. His first touch is always in the right areas, and when it's not, he's strong enough to push the defender away. And I think that when Matt Leckie played in the midfield, that's similar characteristics that he had. He was very muscular and kind of just, you couldn't really get the ball off him, and I don't know, he had a way of kind of driving with the ball. He's exactly the same. I think he's probably a number 8 more than a number 6, but he can play anywhere in the midfield, and if he keeps playing like this, I think he has, you know, a huge, huge career ahead of him.
Yeah, outstanding performance from Dylan Scicluna. Let's hear from him now. He spoke to some bloke called Tommy Orr at the weekend after that impressive performance and impressive win for the Wanderers.
I've got to ask you about your assists, because you kind of channeled your inner Gareth Bale with that run up the sideline there. It was a phenomenal run from you. And can you talk us through what was going through your mind, or were you just kind of taking it as it come, you know, going past defenders at ease?
Yeah, I'm not going to be arrogant and say easy. It's never easy dribbling past people, but I think I just got the ball out wide and, you know, there wasn't much on, so I thought I'm going to have to get myself out of this. And, yeah, once I got past, I think it was Talbot at the end, I saw Buzz pulling off the shoulder of De Silva, and I thought if I can just put this on just past De Silva, I think he's in a position to score. And, yeah, it's not so much about me. It's just about the club and the fans. I think tonight it finally clicked for us, and, you know, hopefully we can go on a run. Yeah, everything clicked tonight. The forwards got their goals, and, yeah, clean sheet was important, so it's brilliant for everyone at the club.
Yeah, fantastic performance from Dylan Scicluna. He's a player who returned to Australia in 2023, gents. He was in the Wolves Academy over in the UK, and it's obviously clearly if you're in a Premier League academy at that age, then you must have something. For him to come back here, and then put on the performances that he is now after he's sustained that injury, and you know how long an ACL injury can take players to recover from, not just feel confident in their body, but get back to the levels they were before. So, hypothetically, let's say he has a very, very strong end to the season and continues the form that he's in now. Could you see him going back overseas quite quickly?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think with his attributes, it's not, let's say, like, for example, when I came through, I think people were like, oh, he's too small to play in England. He needs to go to a technical league. He's the kind of player I think could play anywhere because his attributes are very rounded, like I said before. And I think that he's strong enough and physical enough to go to a physical league. He's technically good enough to go to a technical league. I think that if he continues this form, Wanderers will be doing well to keep him next season.
I can't add any more. I think exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned just on one more on Dylan. So Tommy reckons he can play 6 and an 8. Where do you think, Macca, what you've seen from him so far?
Yeah, I think he's so good on the ball and so technical. I don't want to say he'd be wasted as a 6, but I think moving him further forward where he can actually pull defences apart with his driving at players and also his passing, I'd like to see him play a little bit further forward because he has the technical ability to do so.
You said it off air, and I'll stitch you up here, but you compared his attributes to Declan Rice, and I think that's exactly right, because I think that Declan Rice is similar. He can kind of do everything. He can run with the ball, he can pass, he can get in the box and score goals, and as a 6 sometimes you can't contribute in those areas of the pitch as much as you maybe can, because you're kind of pigeonholed to sitting and breaking up attacks, and I think he's similar. I think he can do that and do that well, but if you give him the reins to go forward, I think he can change a game, to be honest.
But he's better than Arsenal, yeah.
Yeah, he's just upset because I stitched him up and said he's called Lockie Rose like Tim Cahill. So he's going to be action Dylan Scicluna this weekend. They've got a big game against Newcastle Jets, a very big test for the Newcastle Jets midfield coming up against Dylan Scicluna and the likes of Ryan Fraser. Another big game this weekend is the Big Blue. Now this one, gents, has swung both ways of the barometer this season. Sydney won the first one in the pouring rain at Leica Oval 3-0. Then you had Victory absolutely trounced them 4-0 on the last instalment of the Big Blue. Sydney got I say impressive, it was a hard-fought, ugly win, let's say, against Wellington Phoenix, but a win all the same. What have you seen from Sydney that makes you think that they've maybe turned a bit of a corner in recent weeks? Because this was an important victory for them. 3 defenders combined in for a goal there, by the way. But they're back in the Premiership, Premier's Plate race. Are they instilling you with confidence?
They're gritty. I would say they're more gritty. And the way that both Victory and Sydney have been this season, I wouldn't be able to pick who is going to come out on top of this. When you look at 3-0, then 4-0 flip the other way. No Joe Lolly, I think, for this game, which is a big one, which we all know is a huge loss for Sydney. The nature of both these teams, up, down, get a great win and then lose a game that everybody thinks they should win. The consistency hasn't been there, but Sydney is just starting to use a bit of that grit to get through games.
These are the highlights from the first game this season.
Yeah. And this was the Joe Lolly show, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
He absolutely tore them apart. Not even just in the goals, but in the play. I called this game, and even he'd get the ball on one side, turn, and just smack a 60-metre diagonal to the other side to someone's toe who was running away. He was on fine form here. And that's at the stage when we were thinking, wow, this team is going to do anything this year. Yeah. Hasn't quite panned out that way. He's had a little bit of injury problems. They need him firing coming towards the back end of the season.
Yeah, I think as well, I think without him, they don't create enough opportunities. No. They get into good areas of the pitch, but then the final ball's either lacking or, I don't know, they just don't have that X factor when he's not in the side. And this is a big call, and I know the table might tell a different story, but I think if you look at Victory and look at Sydney and both of those teams at their best, I've been more impressed with Victory at their best. Yep. But Victory, like Sydney, hasn't been at their best often enough, and I think that's been the big issue. So going into this game, it's completely dependent on which version of these teams are we going to see, and we've seen the best version and the worst version of both of these teams too regularly, and I think any team that turns up wins.
I suppose from Ufuk Taleh's perspective, the positive for them is that with no Joe Lolly, assuming he is going to be out, they've still got Ahmed Arslan, Apostolos Stamatolopoulos, Abel Wallety's back now from a groin injury, Alhassan Toure is fit now, Campazano and Kispe are still there as thereabouts. So Thiago Quintal has been outstanding for them recently. So if we're going to look at the opposite side and look at the Victory perspective, you touched on their inconsistencies. Apart from Juan Mata, who has been Mr. Consistent this season, 10 assists now, created by far and away more chances than any other player in the league. Why have they been so inconsistent?
Well, that's a great question. I think as well, similarly to a lot of the teams, I think their finishing did let them down earlier in the season, and they definitely did turn a corner in that regard. I still think there has been some question marks in recent weeks about that. Their front third decision making, they do so well to get to the edge of the box, and then there'll be a poor decision to shoot or to cross at the wrong time that kind of lets them down quite consistently. But when it goes right for them, which we also have seen against Sydney only a month ago when they completely destroyed them. This game could have been 6-0, to be honest with you. They have been absolutely scintillating to watch. And, Juan Mata, I've got to say as well, last week, he did come off in the 60th or 70th minute and he did have ice on his leg as well. So a little bit of a question mark around how he's feeling going into this game. But, yeah, I think that Victory will go into this game knowing how they hurt Sydney last time, full of confidence and thinking they can get the job done.
Mako, if you look at someone like Clarice Mario Santos, they do have some attacking firepower. Arthur Dillis does at disposal. Is there a tactical aspect that you think that are they too reliant on Juan Mata, if that's possible?
I don't think they're too reliant on him. I think when you've got a player like Juan Mata, you are going to base your game around it. And we've seen with the assist that he's got, he'll do the celebration, but I'm not going to run with it. I think that they need to utilise him well, but it's about the runs off him. They've got to give him the options. When he is on the ball, they've got to make the right runs. And we've seen in recent weeks that when they make those runs, he can put it on a plate for them. If Juan Mata was to get injured and was be out for the season, then you'd be asking some serious questions about, OK, who fills that void and how do they then restructure the way they play? Because they would have to restructure.
Well, we touched on Juan Mata and somebody who is in the real climax of his career. Somebody else who's not far behind him when it comes to age is Ryan Grant. He turned 35 this week. We caught up with him in pre-season to discuss going from A-League fan to what is now become an A-League legend.
My first sort of memories of the A-League, Nathan Burns played for Adelaide and he's from out in Blaney, close to where I'm from, and we're family friends. So I kept a close eye on him, watched him in the first few seasons of the A-League.
Burns with a shot! He's on fire!
He was obviously a very different player to me. Burnsy's sort of had the swivel of the hips and could score goals. Pretty attractive on the eye, his style of game.
Nathan Burns!
Him just sort of starting like a house on fire and having a really good couple of seasons before he made the move over. So, yeah, just having someone I knew closely was awesome to sort of look up to, but then, just to sort of watch him do really well was cool too. Once I moved to Sydney, I used to get down and watch Sydney FC when I was at the New South Wales Institute of Sport. All the boys would jump on a train and get to Allianz and watch a few Sydney FC games, which was pretty cool. And yeah, to be here now after all that's pretty awesome. I remember Terry McFlynn scored a pretty impressive goal. I think we got in quite late, the train was delayed, so I didn't get to see the whole game.
McFlynn, a wonder strike from the Northern Irishman.
I remember him scoring and running off celebrating, so that was probably a pretty cool memory to have thinking back. For my debut, I found out halfway through the week and was pretty nervous, as everyone is. I think I was 17 at the time.
Another sign of the changing of the guard here at Sydney FC. Ryan Grant, the 17-year-old from the Australian Institute of Sport, becomes the 30th player used by John Cosmina this season.
Was sitting on the bench and came on with probably 20 minutes to go or something like that. Came on at right back. Came on for Anthony Golek. For a swap in the back line. So, only played about 20 odd minutes, I think, if that. And honestly, don't remember much of the game. It wasn't too many details. I remember just the fact that I got on and was happy to get my debut. My favourite all-time A-League moment, on a personal point of view, I've been lucky enough to score in a couple of grand finals, so it's always hard to go past them.
It's in off Ryan Grant! All score in the grand final! Picking out Ryan Grant, chesting it home! The kid from Canowindra! He scored another grand final goal on Ryan Grant's nipple. Into the back of the net.
More recently was my goal against the Wanderers at their stadium in front of their, I suppose, fans, but right in front of our travelling fans too. I scored a header, which was pretty cool, and got to celebrate with our fans out in Western Sydney.
What a beauty for Sydney FC! And it's the skipper of the night, Ryan Grant, to send those sky blue hordes into ecstasy.
As many good moments as there's been over the years, I think that's the most recent one that I like to look back on. It's pretty surreal when you sort of sit back and look at it. When I first moved to Sydney, I was 15. And then within a year and a half to 2 years, I was playing A-League. So it all happened pretty quick for me. Got to play with some awesome players in that generation, and sort of being the young boy amongst those boys was pretty surreal. But now the shoe be on the other foot, where I'm sort of the older, experienced player. I've got a lot of young boys come through the team at the minute to sort of try and do my best to help them. I definitely look back at what the older players did for me and how they helped me progress early in my career, and I try and see what I can do to sort of give back and help them as much as possible. So it's a pretty full circle moment coming from a small country town and being able to play for Sydney FC, a team that I supported from the start. And sort of seeing, like I said, Nathan Burns and players from Central West come through and show that there is a possibility for us country boys to kick on and have a career in football is pretty cool. And hopefully I'm doing much of the same, not only for people in Sydney, but obviously out in the country too.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there from Ryan Grant. You can hear more from him and teammate Alex Grant. They're part of a new show that we've got coming up with the two gentlemen to my left. Gents, you should be good chat between yourselves and the Grant, the stepbrothers, as people are calling them outside this season.
Better be.
No pressure.
Before we go, let's do some presenters' favourite things, predictions, where we get to make ourselves look like mugs on a weekly basis. We're going to do something slightly different with this. 3 topics. The first of which, who do we think will win the Golden Boot this year? Tommy, you can go first.
I'm going to say, just to be different to Macca, but I'm going to say Jesse Randall. I think.
I'll go with the low-hanging fruit. The guy who's leading the lead.
You're not going to choose him, so I think he's formed since he signed, overseas. Everyone was wondering what's going to happen to his form, but he's just taken it to another level. And Auckland, I think as well, is going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. So he'll have.
Old Nostradamus over there.
Yeah. Well, who's yours then? Here we go.
Hey, but I'm sticking with mine that I picked at the start of the year. Where's your Costa Barbarouses? Jumped off his ship pretty quick, didn't you? I'm sticking with Cosgrave, who I said before I'd even seen him kick a ball, I knew they'd be strong this year, and he added a different dimension. And lo and behold, he's right up the top with the goals and assists. So I'm going to stick with my man.
I'm going to go with, Wellington fans, I'm going to go with Ifeanyi Eze. I think he's going to have one of them classic seasons where he does really well and then leaves straight away and he goes into another big club in Australia or somewhere in Asia. OK, Johnny Warren medal prediction. There's going to be a clear name that's going to come out from all 3 of us, I think, on this one. Tommy?
Juan Mata.
Yeah.
Oh. I was going with Will Dobson. No, I think, this is one of the ones for me that I find it depends what's happening around you with your teammates. So I look at Auckland and I think Pineacre, I think, is one of the best players in the league. Vestrada. Pineacre, you're pretty good as well. Vestrada is one of the best players in the league, but that's a team where Jesse Randall will get points, Cosgrove might score a goal, he'll get points, De Vries will get... And I think it takes away... Mata is becoming more and more instrumental, and he's already, we're all already seeing him be good, but I think he's just improving all the way along. And I think for that reason, because he pulls the strings so much for victory, that it catches the eye and he gets the points, I think he's going to get them.
And you could say the same thing about the Jets players, is I think a lot of them are taking points off each other.
Yep.
Clayton Taylor, Eli Adams, whoever it is, I think,
Yeah, Juan Mata for me. If you've got 10 assists and you created, I think it's almost 20 more chances to the next player on the list, which I think is Francis De Vries. That he is single-handedly making that club feel good about itself again, and that's what you want from a player of his calibre. Okay, if you had to recommend one player to an overseas scout right now from the Isuzu A-League, who would it be and why?
Will Dobson from the Jets. And because he's only 18 years old, and when I watch him play, I cannot believe he's only 18, just the maturity that he plays with. And, when you see a lot of 18-year-olds come into the league and they can be, explosive wingers and they dribble, but their decision-making's wrong, or, they're always very raw. Like, he does not look like a raw talent. He looks pretty polished for someone who's 18, and he's obviously got 3 goals so far this season. He is getting better and better every week, and with time on his side, I think that I wouldn't look any further than him.
Yeah, okay.
He was on my short list, as were a couple of other Jets players. Trying to get this down to one was hard. I was looking at Marcus Eunice and Dylan Cicluna, and I know we've spoke about both of them at today. I'm flipping a coin between the two.
Yeah.
And whoever comes down, I think they've both got a really high ceiling, exceptional talents. Are you going to press me for one?
Yeah, pick one. Don't sit on the fence.
Marcus Eunice.
Eunice. My pick is going to be someone that I know has already attracted interest from Newcastle United in the Premier League and Liverpool, and Arsenal scouts have all been looking at him, Hayne Eames. Because I think had he not had his injury at the start of this season, he was on course. I mean, this is the player that was given the captaincy by Mark Jackson in the Asian Champions League Elite last season, scored his first goals in the competition last year. For a kid of his age to be coming in and taking control of midfield and not just being a bit of a passenger and learning his way. I mean, in a season where the Mariners really struggled last year where they had so many young players coming to the team, he was one that stood up for me. So, yeah, I'd go. Hayne Eames would be someone I think an overseas scout should be taking a look at. I'll happily take a cut of that deal as well. Let's have a look at the ladder, shall we? Because heading into round 20 of the Isuzu A-League, it is very congested. The Jets at the top, gents, 2 points lead over Auckland FC now. Sydney FC 5 points back. The top 6, Adelaide, Melbourne, Macarthur. Macarthur are in action tonight, which we'll come on to in just a second, against the Mariners. They're, Mariners are breathing right down their necks.
It's huge.
It's a huge game.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, of course, Brisbane Roar.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the games played. Brisbane, obviously, having played that extra game, I feel like they need to kick into gear very quickly if they're going to make the 6. But otherwise, I know I said it last week as well, but Melbourne City, you just feel like they might be coming.
Do you think that the other teams down the bottom are looking at that Macarthur and Mariners game and saying, Mariners, you need to get a win here so Macarthur don't get that point gap opened up?
100%. You just want number 6 to keep getting chipped away and to keep you alive, I guess. Yeah.
Play the weak link of the top 6. So the Macarthur Mariners game, of course, is tonight. Then there's only 4 more games for the rest of the round. Adelaide against Wellington, the Jets against Wanderers, massive game which we discussed. Sydney FC against Melbourne Victory, Auckland against Perth as well. Good memories for Auckland fans. That was the game last year where they got to pick the Premier's play up as well. I tell you what is a timely, I suppose, rest this weekend, and that's Brisbane Roar not playing, because the news came out today as we record this that they're going to be without Nick D'Agostino and Chris Long for 6 weeks now due to the injuries they picked up in that game against Perth at the weekend. So that could be something we're looking at, especially D'Agostino, looking for a World Cup spot. If he can get his form in line, that's a big blow for them.
Well, it's a huge blow, but they've also picked up Andy Bernal, so the fire and brimstone. Keep it going, Andy.
That will do us for this week's episode of Total A-Leagues. Thank you ever so much for watching wherever you are and when you do watch this show. Go out and enjoy the football this weekend. We'll see you next time.